Hello everyone, welcome back to my studio. I'm Rhonda, and today I'm going to do some more animal paintings for you. So I had talked on my last video there about doing some studies with antelope. So I'm going to do some of those with my painting today and share them with you over the next few weeks. So I hope you enjoy, and let's go down to my table and have a look at the paints I'm going to be using. So I have my Heritage Multimedia acrylics. These are the paints that I use for all of my acrylic painting. I really enjoy these paints. They're very high quality. They are non-hazardous, non-toxic, professional quality paints, and they're by Jansen Art. I will put a link in the description to these, and they are my favorite paints to use. I'll put a little link in the corner for a video that I made comparing different qualities of paints that you might find interesting as well. So this is my Heritage Multimedia paints. They come in these jars. You can get them in little jars. These are the 4 fluid ounce. These are the 8 fluid ounce. You can actually even get them in these little guys here that are 3 fluid ounce, or you can get them as tubes. Now I personally like to get the jars of paint because then if I have leftover paint on my palette, I can put it back in the jars. Plus, because I do order these from the States and shipping is a little more expensive up here to Canada, I like to order larger quantities at a time. So then for my brushes here, I have these ones here that I picked. Now I'm not 100% sure what all I'm going to use, so I'm just going to show you these. I am going to be using my short-handled Fusion brushes, my Fusion flats. This is a 3/4 inch. I have a 1/2 inch here. This is a number 10. I grabbed my number 8. And then I grabbed, just in case I wanted it, my number 6 Fusion filbert. And the Fusion brushes have very soft bristles. They're actually a watercolor style brush, so they have very soft bristles, and they work just excellent for painting animals. This, in case I want it, is just a number 4 synthetic filbert. This is just one that I had gotten from Michael's, I believe. Yeah, it's an Artist Loft one that I'd gotten from Michael's. But it's a synthetic filbert. And then I also have, this is also from Jansen Art, they're a number 1 short liner, just in case I want that for anything. So those are the brushes that I'm going to use. I have my board here. This is just a 1/8 inch thick MDF board that I have base coated with a basic gray, and then I drew my antelope onto there. I paint on a lot of these wood panels. I find them very nice to paint on. So, and the picture that I am painting, I actually have it up on my iPad here, and I will put it up on the screen. It's actually a picture of an antelope that I took this summer. So I will put it up on the screen because it is my picture and I own the copyrights to it. So I'll put it up on the screen for you guys to see. And I'm using that as my reference for this guy. And we'll go from there and get painting. The first thing that I want to do when I'm painting this guy is I kind of wanted to set some of my basic tones on him. So that's usually what I do first when I'm painting an animal, is I'll try to go in and I'll set my tones. The other thing that I need to do is I need to determine where my light's coming from. Now on my sample picture, the light is coming from the right, and so that's what I was deciding I was going to do, because I want to actually be able to highlight this area of his neck that's so nicely colored and have the nice light on this side, because he's going to be quite warm colored with all the yellows and everything that an antelope has. I'm going to do the background in kind of a blue violet sort of color, and I'm not going to put a lot of detail into the background on this one. It's just going to be kind of a an abstract background. Now the paints that I am using, the Heritage paints, I have here hansa yellow, diarylide yellow, yellow oxide. This is naphthol red light, burnt sienna, pine green. This is phthalo blue, red violet, and I have a big pile of white, titanium white there to use. So when I'm starting with an animal like this, and I think I'm actually going to go ahead and use my number 10 here, my number 10 flat. What I like to do is I like to kind of base in the colors and stuff so that I have an idea of my undercolors for the animal. So if you look at an antelope, they tend to have kind of uh, a yellowish tan tone to them, and then with some white, and they've got their darker antlers and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to just start out here by making myself a kind of a tan color. So I'm going to take some of my yellow oxide. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water to this just because my yellow oxide is getting a little old, so I don't have a lot left in there. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna just to kind of make that tan color. Now I want to take down the red a little bit and make it more of a tan, so I'm going to titch into the green just a little bit there. You see how that tones that down and makes more of a tan? Then I'm going to take some white and lighten it. So I kind of get a color about like that. And I'm going to start putting that in just on his face here. Just kind of, I'm going to move my reference over a little bit so I can see it a little better. So I'm just kind of putting in the shades, and I'm kind of trying to go along with the way that his hair would go. So you can kind of see that his nose, the hair kind of comes down like this. Here it's kind of coming this direction. His ears, he's got some lighter on the outside of his ears here. And kind of up in this area on the top of his head where the light will be hitting. Now this is just the base coat underneath, so it's going to change a lot as I go. Now I want it to have a little bit more of that darker reddish tinge to it as I move over to the center here and kind of start going down the nose. And like I say, all of this will kind of get painted over eventually. Just kind of do some around his eye there. Now let's take, sorry about that, there's a little bit of bugs in here. Let's kind of make a bit of a darker color. So I'm going to take some of that, some pine green, maybe a little bit of red, make kind of that darker brown color. Yeah, that's kind of a nice color there. And I'm going to use that more on this side of his face, and kind of where the shadow of his horns is going to, if the light's coming strong from this side, the shadow of his horns is going to kind of come across here. So we'll need to kind of have that shadow in there. Now I want to add a little bit of violet to this too, because that's my shadow, and I want my shadows to have some cool violets in them. So we're going to kind of put that cool violet in there on the shadow side. And like I say, a lot of this will change as I go, but this is just kind of a starting point. And I'm going to kind of put some of this cool violet color down in here. I'm not going to put a lot of detail on this side of his body. It's going to be more of just a kind of a abstract part on his body here. But I'm also going to make sure I take some of that and really go around here to set his nose off from the rest of this. Now one thing that you'll find with antelope that's interesting, just an interesting tidbit of fact for you, is that an antelope, this is a pronghorn antelope, they're common in the prairies here, and these pronghorn antelope are actually not officially antelope. They are actually closer related to the giraffe in family wise. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I'm going to kind of take a half tone between these two and kind of come out here a little bit. Same thing with down here, just kind of bring that half tone in there. Kind of have some lighter and some darker there. And I've also got my paper towels here that I like to use for my brushes. So you notice I'm using a fairly big brush for this beginning part, and that's because a lot of this beginning part is more of a just basing it in, so I want to kind of take bigger strokes. I'm not doing a lot of fine detail yet. Now along his nose here, this hair is coming down this way. because that's the side of his face. And you'll find if you can make your brush move in the way that the hair moves, that you'll get the look of the face better there. And I want this bright sunshiny spot to kind of come up against this darker area of his neck there. We'll also bring some in on this ear here. I think that's important to have that on the ear. And down this side of his face, there's kind of a, he's got a bit that kind of comes out like that, kind of comes up like this over his eye. He does have these sun-struck tufts up here. And then you get down into that shadow a little bit. So he's got those going on there. And this white of his nose actually kind of goes all the way into here. But you notice I'm changing the angle that my brush is at, because here, this part of his mouth, the hair would be moving this direction instead of down this way. Mix a little bit of these yellows in here and kind of add a little more warmth to my tan here that I'm going to have kind of in this area as well. And up here, kind of coming down like this. And you just want to work at touching the areas where you're going to be struck by the sun, and that sort of thing, with your lighter, warmer colors, and then use your darker, cooler colors on the other side where he's going to be in shadow. So I'm actually going to mix together quite a dark color here. So I'm going to mix a really good dark violet, and then I'm going to take some red and a little bit of green into that. I just want to make a really nice dark color. Now when I want to test that and see what color it actually is, sometimes I'll put it onto my paper, and then I can kind of see. So that's a real nice dark color, because inside his ears he's going to have some of this really dark just on the inside of those ears. And over here he's got some dark on the outside of his ears. There's going to be some real dark shadows down in here on him. His horns are going to have dark shadows on this side here. Not getting too detailed yet. We'll have some shadow on this side of the horn as well, where the sun's not hitting it. Okay, now I am actually going to go down to a smaller brush just because I want to get in here and do something to his eyes. So I'm going to take my little filbert there, and I'm going to come in here. I want to add a little bit of burnt sienna into that to make it just a touch more brown. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to go in and fill in these eyes. For me, I find that the eye on the animal is so important. So right now it's just going to look like a big brown blob, but I will be doing a lot more to the eyes. I just want to get them in there so that you can kind of see where they're going to be. And then we're going to take some of this dark, the brownish color, and add it to his horns here as well. We kind of have this like double horn thing going on. It's really kind of interesting. If you look at antelope. And I want to add some of that dark into this shadow as well. Of course, a lot of this is going to change, like I say, because you do multiple layers on animal paintings. But this is kind of a darker color coming down here as well on this side of his face. I'm going to come in here with my red a little bit. I'm going to reconstitute that with a touch of water. That's something you can do with your heritage paints. I'm going to kind of come in here and get that fur there really fluffed up. And I want to take some of that real dark color again that I had. Mix that up, make a nice real dark color again. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this side of his nose. So it's going to come down here, be quite dark on this side. And then as you go on to this side, it's going to get lighter, but he'll have this dark hole in his nose there. And he'll have his area here. Now I'm over painting it right now, and then I'll paint back into it to kind of calm that look down a little bit. And then he's kind of got this darker area under his lip as well. So a lot of this is just about getting in here and getting some color down, getting a little bit of, add a little bit of white to that and make kind of a color to go on this side, kind of a gray on this side of the horn. Just to kind of make sure all my spaces are filled in where the sun would be hitting those. The inside of this ear is a bit gray, a little bit of gray on this horn. Now, he does have quite a dark brow here, so I want to capture that in my initial painting. So I want to put a stroke there for his dark brow and this dark area under his eye as well, because I want to make sure I don't lose those when I'm painting. You know, it's a matter of trying to keep certain areas a little bit more where you can kind of see what you're going for. Now here along his nose, he has hair going both directions. So I'm going to kind of do that in this area of his nose, just to kind of make that bridge of the nose stand out a little more. And then I'm going to take some of this lighter brownish gray, and I'm going to keep going on this part of his nose here, just to kind of fill that in. Just tucking down there, get that in there. I'm going to go a little bit lighter even, and just add some more lighter shade on here, just to make that stand out a little more. So a lot of this initial part is more just sketching in what you're doing, so that you kind of have a map to follow. That's really what this initial stage is just making your color map on here. And like I say, a lot of that will change as you go. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush now and finish off just my outline of his body. So I'm going to go back to this kind of more tan color. But I want to tone down the red in that with some green. Now if you add too much in, like I did there, you just go back into your more redder color and that'll cancel it out because they're opposites on the color wheel. And I want to make it a lighter color of tan because this is where the sun is actually hitting his back. So you want to kind of have that in there where the sun is really hitting him, so that you can kind of see that. And of course that, like I say, a lot of that will be painted in with more detail later. Now his whiter areas on his neck there, I'm going to do those using a bit of a kind of a lighter gray. So I'm going to take this light gray here and I'm going to just use that. Now this would be a good spot again to just add a little bit of violet because you're in the shadows. So even though you don't really see the violet in the painting, you can really accentuate it, or in the picture, you can really accentuate it in the painting, because that's part of being an artist, is you're the artist. You're the one putting the detail in there and making it look more like art rather than just a painting. So so feel free to play a little bit with the colors like that. As I come around, I'm going to just lighten that up a little bit. And then I'm going to actually take some of this gray, but very light, but without that purple in it, because now we're on this side, and I'm actually going to add a little bit of yellow to it, just a touch, just so that it warms it, because this side of your antelope is in the sun, so I want the sun to be hitting this part of him and giving us that lighter side. So a lot of this is about your lights and your darks, and just trying to capture what this little guy is going to look like with his lights and his darks and his various shades of color. And okay, so that's kind of a good base zone. Now, one thing I am going to do as well, just to make it look a little bit more realistic here for us, is I am going to take and I'm going to go ahead and put in, even though I'm going to do a lot more with his eyes, I'm going to put in his little highlight there, just so that I can see it. It's kind of helpful. Now, I'm going to take my bigger brush, my bigger 3/4 inch brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make this blue-violet color that I want for my background. And I'm kind of mixing it in with some of these other colors to tone it down a little bit. And then I'm going to add a bunch of white to it. So we kind of have this like violet-y color, and then I'm going to make some, it's maybe a little more blue side. Not quite that much. A little bit more to the blue side. And I'm going to just kind of go in here and paint my background. Now I haven't really decided what all I'm going to do on the background. I just kind of want it to be a bit more abstract. So I'm taking my big brush and I'm just coming in here and I'm going to just kind of paint in some blue and a little bit of purple, and just kind of make a bit more of a abstracted background here. And I'll come down into there because I just add stuff over top of that again after. And so one thing you got to keep in mind when you're painting with acrylics is you can add in a lot of color and stuff on top of each other. So like you paint in and out of the animal. So if I'm going like I painted the animal first, so I kind of know where I'm putting him and stuff, but then I'm going to go and I'm going to paint, you know, right up to his edge here, but I'm not afraid of going over that edge, because if I do, I just paint back out. And that's, see there, I went over, and I'll just paint that back out. And that's part of painting with acrylics. Now I do want, because my sun is coming, I also wanted to do some like this here, some ups and some downs, and just kind of have some movement in that background. And this is just a way, something that you decide how you want to do it. It's part of your design process as the artist. And this is what I'm learning in some of the courses that I'm taking, that you just have to decide how you want your design to look. Now see, I'm painting it all like this, getting this all in here. And then I'm actually going to take some lighter, less cool blue and put it on my sunny side here of him, because I don't want the background to be completely cool. But I'm also going to take a few lighter shades of blue here, of the cooler blue, and put them in here as well. Kind of come down into him a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of the blue right into his body. because you want to have the harmony there. Come right into his horn there. And then maybe take a little bit of lighter purple as well and just kind of mix that in there on this side. I think I want to keep that a little darker there by his face. So I'm just kind of going back and forth and in and out with my background and deciding how I want it to look here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, because like I say, I want this side here where the sun is to be just a little bit lighter. So I'm going to take some of my blue here and really mix in a bunch of white. Now your phthalo blue is really strong, so you end up having to mix in quite a bit to, but I'm not going to cover everything either. I'm going to kind of just have the light coming in like this. Don't be afraid to experiment and try things, because unless you experiment, you won't know if you like it. So a lot of this is just me experimenting with some different colors and stuff for my background and just kind of playing around with it until I get something I really like. You know, and for me, I'm kind of going for like this kind of sunrisey sort of morning color. I want to grab a little bit of kind of a pink color and put it into that sky as well. Not so much like that. I need a little bit of violet in there, I think. Just to add a little bit more of that kind of lighter morning sky feel to it. But still keep it fairly the background a little bit darker there. So yeah, so that's kind of the look I was going for. I might add in a little bit more of a bit of a darker color here again to this side. Just kind of have that darker look over there in the background, because this is your kind of your darker night sky over on this side. Yet, and then you've got your morning glow coming in from this side. So I kind of like that. So that's where we're going to leave it for now, and then you can always make changes to that later. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned to my channel as I will be posting more animal videos and also more videos on painting other subjects. So have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.